So it's finally happening. Something that most of us saw coming for a while now. I think it's kind of crazy that it's happening like literally at the beginning of the year. But Trump and his regime have finally attacked Venezuela.
Low-flying aircraft in the city. This is the first U.S. military attack within the country. President Trump is targeting the South American nation over its authoritarian leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his alleged ties to drug cartels. It follows months of military buildup.
Here's what bothers me. So Maduro is a terrible guy, and I'm ecstatic that he's out of there. But I hate how disingenuous the mass media is. They're saying, he's claiming over his alleged ties. You know, sometimes the news isn't just about repeating what people say. It's about saying the truth. And the truth is, we want the oil. So why keep the narrative of, the drug cartel connection? I mean, Trump just pardoned the former Honduran president, who was one of the biggest drug traffickers in the last 20 years. And at the same time, we're over here claiming that we're invading a country because, we just want to execute the arrest warrant from New York State because this guy is a drug dealer. I mean, can we get some real journalism back? It's pathetic.
In the region, the strikes come just hours after Maduro had said he was open to negotiations with the U.S.
I'm sure he was.
Let's go right to CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand. She's traveling with the president in West Palm Beach, Florida. And Natalie, what are we hearing from the Trump administration right now?
Well, as of this hour, sources are telling CBS News that Trump administration officials are aware of these reports of explosions and aircraft.
The Trump administration is aware of explosions. Come on. By the way, if you watch this video and you see where the explosions are happening, they're happening, in the mountains, in the dark areas, not in the city here. This is where the military installations are. I watched a bunch of videos of people in Caracas recording the Chinooks and the Apachis and the different helicopters and aircraft that arrived to execute this mission. And it's pretty clear that no civilian targets were being hit. The city itself wasn't being hit. A major difference from when I was watching the Iraq invasion back in 2003. There was bombing across the city. All kinds of people were being killed. And I think that's important because, for one, I know for a fact, as a Latino who speaks to a lot of Venezuelans, my barber included, I texted him this morning to ask him his thoughts. I kind of knew where he was going to go, but I did want to hear, just for confirmation, how Venezuelans feel about this whole situation, and most of them are ecstatic. What you don't want to do is start bombing civilian targets, apartment buildings, and then turn the population against you. That could happen in a heartbeat. So as of right now, I have to give the draft dodger credit. This is what all the Hispanic. So anyone who voted MAGA who was Hispanic voted for this. If I was one of them, I would have voted for this. But I didn't think they were going to do anything because in his first term, they did all of all. And my family's from Nicaragua, and we have the same issue. Unfortunately, we don't have oil, so the chances of us being liberated are next to zero. But this is a step forward in the right direction. Venezuela is a big financier of Daniel Ortega and his regime in Nicaragua. At the end of the day, it is regime change. But we have to understand that as a developing nation, you have to pick a lesser of two evils. So you either ally with Russia and China or you ally with the United States. I think if you ask the people of Venezuela, I don't think I know. Who would you rather be allies with? It would be the United States. At worst, it would be some uninformed civilian who just wants better products. They're tired of Chinese and Russian cars, vehicles, electronics, and all the other garbage pumped into their countries. And at best, it would be someone who's geopolitically aware and understands that you have to pick sides when you're a developing nation. You don't get to be completely independent. I mean, this is not the 1950s, 1940s. You can't just be completely sovereign from everyone. It's a beautiful concept, but you have to understand that you are dependent on the superpowers, and you have to learn how to negotiate and speak on your own behalf for your own interests. And that's where you have personal responsibility as a country to create leaders who know how to navigate and speak to the superpowers to push forward your interests while at the same time giving up some of the oil, giving up some of the minerals. I mean, you know what I mean? It's inevitable. Would you rather be a South Korea or a North Korea? Would you rather be Japan or Vietnam. There are downsides to allying with the United States, but it's not as bad as allying with China or Russia.
No immediate response from the White House, but we've also learned, per U.S. officials, that President Trump ordered strikes on sites inside Venezuela, including military.
Just also, look how unserious the Venezuela's military is. These are low-flying, easy-target aircraft. These Chinooks are incredibly easy to shoot down. The Taliban in the mountains of Afghanistan would shoot these down with freaking RPGs. Not all the time, but it's a possibility, right? These are slow-moving aircraft. And the fact that you could get these Apaches and Chinooks into Caracas, the capital where your president is, and not offer any resistance is absolutely wild.
Facilities. This, of course, comes as the administration has escalated its campaign against the regime of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, which the U.S. administration views as illegitimate. So right now, as you've seen on some initial video coming in, which we are still working to gather and confirm, several explosions were heard around 2 a.m. local time Saturday overnight in Venezuela's capital city, Caracas. People seen kind of rushing to the streets. And again, this is something that the president himself had said was a possibility out loud, talking about potential land strikes. CBS News has also learned from sources that the president gave the U.S. military the green light to conduct land strikes in Venezuela.
For the record, I also feel like this is one of the few situations where the draft dodger allowed the military to just do its job. If it was executed the way that they're saying it was, and it was targeted strikes on military, potential military defense positions that could have hindered the move, and then swooping in Delta Force, like Delta Force does, comes in, takes Maduro, they leave. That is exactly why we have special operations in the United States of America. That is exactly why Delta Force exists. There is no other reason for Delta Force to exist other than to execute precise attacks like this, to quickly demoralize and make our interests inevitability. So if it was executed like this, I gotta give him props. I know for a fact, well, I can't say that. I have a 90% I give it 90% probability that Venezuela unites greatly behind whoever takes power. The opposition in Venezuela is massive, and to be able to remove this guy without really shedding any blood, let's be honest, would be something for the history books. Literally, it would be smooth. So not like Iraq, where you're destabilizing a country and you had leaders who weren't even representing of the majority. And then on top of it, you put in power someone from the portion of the religious sect that isn't even the majority of the country. So you're showing how much you don't understand the culture of where you're conducting a regime change. Here, it's not too complicated. Everyone pretty much understands. And when I say everyone, anyone who has been to Latin America in the last 5 years kind of knows where the sentiment is shifting, and it's away from these old school communist quote unquote dictators who want to ally with Russia and China. People are pretty burnt out on that. It's, in Argentina, they went completely liberal. Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua's having the same issue. We have the dictator, but the entire population is over it. And 10% of the population in Nicaragua has been exiled or has voluntarily left. And those are massive, insanely massive numbers.
Venezuela days before the actual operation, waiting for conditions to be right there. Sources also say that military officials were even going to conduct the mission on Christmas, but U.S. air
would have been wild to attack on,
as you may remember, against ISIS targets took.
I'd be pissed if I was a pilot.
That day, according to the sources.
Gonna work on Christmas?
We are still working to confirm the latest, but Clarissa, as you know, this comes on top of months of a pressure campaign, which started back in September with those initial strikes that we saw on alleged drug boats off the coast of Venezuela. That has expanded now to a massive military buildup around Venezuela, a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers, a pressure campaign that's both military and also economic pressure.
As you said, this has been a slow and steady escalation. What is the president's goal in Venezuela at this time?
He's been careful not to completely disclose that when asked directly by reporters. He won't talk about regime change, even though that's what a lot of lawmakers.
That's what I dislike about this whole thing. At least, be honest about it, right? Explain it the way I just did. It's like you have to pick a lesser of two evils. Of course, we want the oil. Let it benefit us as much as it benefits them. Right now, no one's benefiting. Just be transparent about it. I just don't understand who's giving advice in the White House as to how do you approach these things, and not just in this administration. I mean, the same thing happened under the Bush administration. You think that these are people with degrees who understand exactly what they're doing. They understand human psychology, how to approach these situations, propaganda, and they just don't. They're no more intelligent than your neighbor at some time, especially this administration. It's kind of pathetic.
Over on Capitol Hill say that they believe all signs point to. But President Trump, in interviews with reporters, including CBS News' own Norah O'Donnell, has said that he believes that Maduro's days as president are numbered. The big question, of course, is what would happen next. And that's where even allies of the president on Capitol Hill, after they received briefings on Venezuela operations, they said that they had more questions for administration officials about the real strategy here and the end game.
Natalie Brand, thank you for those details on what's happening in Venezuela right now. Now, CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano is talking to sources in both Colombia and Venezuela. And Lilia, what is the reaction in these overnight hours to all of this?
Well, over the last few minutes or maybe an hour,
what is this audio?
These reports, I started reaching out to sources in Venezuela. I heard from folks who confirmed that they heard one person who heard the loud bangs, who said that their area, which is near one of these bases that was bombed, could hear the loud bang, that the skies were orange and that they lost power.
The skies are orange like our dear leader.
People, of course, were expecting that something could happen, but they have been waiting for many weeks. So, of course, now when it does happen, they are on high alert. I have also heard I reached out from when I covered the election last week to people who are supportive or allied to the Maduro regime, and they said that they are standing guard, that they're waiting for more information, but that they're willing to come out and fight whatever that means to maintain the Venezuelan, they say government, of course, regime. I also reached out to Colombia. The president of Colombia has issued a couple of tweets. In them, he makes sure to state that Colombia is neither an enemy of Venezuela or of the United States. And
smart move.
Placing Colombia in a way in between both countries.
But let's be honest, if we were worried about drugs, if Colombia has any inkling that any of this is true, that they're going for drugs, then they better be real political and careful what they say about this, because their ass would be next.
And offering the possibility of entering or allowing or facilitating negotiations. And Maduro has now, or the government of Venezuela, has also issued a statement in the last several minutes calling this a flagrant violation of the Charter of the United Nations.
Yeah, like we care about that.
Hoping to hear a little bit more about more reactions from Venezuela, but of course this happened at 2 a.m. local time, and people are sharing what they can on social media. It seems like the strikes are primarily airports, military bases, and we're hoping to hear more from our government I've reached out to military sources too for confirmation, but we'll continue making calls.
Sure, and it's probably too early to tell if there's been any casualties in all of this as well. Lilia Luciano, thank you so much for that information. Well, to recap, the U.S. attacked military facilities in Caracas, Venezuela's capital. Multiple explosions were heard around 2 a.m. local time, marking America's first military attack inside Venezuela.
So, to wrap it up, I will have to say, look, I'm a leftist, I'm a progressive, but I'm also a realist. I am an immigrant who understands deeply what Latin America is like. And we are the world's police. This whole isolationist MAGA concept that, we're just not going to intervene in anybody's conflicts is absolute bullshit. You would not have everything we have, from cheap gas prices to all this cheap bullshit that we buy from Walmart, unless we dominated the world. The thing is, what we have to do as the world police is we have to, and we have, we take, but we also allow and we give back. Japan and Germany are prime examples of what happens when you were once the enemy, but you work with us. This isn't the 1800s, you can't just go and just rape and pillage an entire country because the whole world is watching. But what you can do is be a better option than Russia or China, who are right now currently dominating Latin America, Africa, and will continue to do so as we have decided as a country under the Trump administration that soft power is no longer viable. And the reason we've decided that is because the majority of the population doesn't understand the amount of power we flex through soft means, as in through U.S. aid. USAID wasn't just giving out free money. It was literally, the propaganda arm that showed people in other countries how we could benefit them, and making them allies of ours through our goodwill. And these are fractions of percentages of our yearly budget, our fiscal year budget. But it did so much more than when we, attack countries through physical means. So luckily in these strikes, it was very targeted, but usually they're not. And even when we have good intentions, which is rare, we end up making the population turn against us because we end up killing people. And when you kill people, that's it multiplies the anger that people have. You kill one person, it affects their parents, it affects their family, it affects their friends, it affects the people they shop from or shop with. It's a terrible thing, and it never helps us. So when we are able to spread our influence through peaceful means and with money that we can afford to spend, it's always a good thing. So we have to accept the fact that Venezuela is an important player in the world because of the amount of resources they have. And I would rather have those resources used for us, for Venezuela as well, instead of for China and for Russia, which is what's going to be happening. Now, it is up to Venezuelans to elect their leaders who are going to be hard negotiators and who are going to make sure that they get a fair cut of all their resources. Because inevitably, what we would prefer, obviously, is we'll get some guy who we just pay $50 million flat a year and we take everything. And that is also unacceptable. So let's stop living in a fairy tale where we're just going to be hands off, because China and Russia are not. They're just not. So let's support the Venezuelans. Let's be happy for them. This is a great moment for them. I'm super ecstatic for them. My barber's ecstatic. The guys at the barber shop are ecstatic. And let's support this unfortunate way that we had to do things. Hopefully the execution was perfect, and the whatever forces Maduro has left capitulate. I'm pretty sure they will. They really don't have a chance. I mean, the fact that we just flew in there, took their leader, gone, like overnight in a couple hours is just astounding. I mean, I was on my phone last night. I said, oh, they're bombing Venezuela. Like, I wasn't even shocked. And then, like, my wife came home and was like, hey, you see this article? I'm like, yeah, I heard they bombed. And no, they have Maduro. I'm like, what? I was literally 20 minutes ago, there was nothing. Now he's gone. So it's quite impressive. I'm really proud, that we have such a elite unit who are still competent in their abilities in this country, despite the fact that our commander-in-chief is a draft dodger and has absolutely no clue how to do anything. So I'm really proud of that. And I think we're going to be watching this closely. I'm going to be, I think, doing a couple reaction videos to some of the people I love, like Keith Edwards and Kyle Kalinske, because I just know they're going to be freaking out. And I have a lot of thoughts, and this is where I would have pushback and how I consider myself an independent, because I'm a progressive, but I'm independent because I still believe that you have to mold the world to your views. And then the world's responsibility is to know how to adapt to that. The way that Nayib Bukele is doing in El Salvador. There is no such thing as an ideal world or a perfect world. We are human beings, and it's going to take 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 more years of this experiment of humanity to maybe reach an ideal society. But we're still just cavemen with nuclear bombs. And I would much rather us be in charge than Russia or China.